over.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome to Gateway School District regular board meeting. Today is Monday, October the 28th, and we had executive prior to the meeting, and we discussed personnel and legal. All right, so let's go ahead and have roll call.
Mrs. Boyce. Here. Mr. Bova.
Here.
Mrs. Burns.
Here.
Mrs. Delaney.
Here.
Mrs. McBride. Here. Ms. Muggo.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Dr. Singh.
Here.
Mrs. Morning.
Here.
All right, again, welcome. I know we have presentations and comments from residents on agenda items, and I will have you guys speak, but I just wanted to read a statement real quick. We would like to inform the public that policies 103, 104 are currently under review and will not be voted on at tonight's meeting. When a policy is under review, it means that additional discussion, analysis, or revisions can be considered and made to the policy. These policies will be sent back to the committee for further examination and revision. The committee will evaluate feedback, consider any updates, and bring the policies back to the board for future consideration at a later date. This portion of the meeting is for public comments, which we are happy to take. There won't be any Q&A. Thank you for understanding and continued engagement. So with that said, we have 3 people who did sign up. Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes to speak. There's a timer there. It doesn't eliminate anyone else from speaking. I want you to know that. If anyone else wants to speak on agenda items, please just go up to the podium, state your name, and you'll get 3 minutes. So we can just be mindful, there is a timer there, and be considerate, make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. So Mary Beth, you are first.
Greetings, friends and former colleagues. It's lovely to see you all this evening. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. And I already want to start off the meeting by commending you all on taking a closer look at this policy. My purpose for being here tonight is exactly what you said, just to share information that I learned myself from researching this policy and listening to advice from an attorney outside of the district that I spoke to, just so that I can share that with you and you guys can make the best informed decision that you can. I know that sometimes we're given directives and updates on policies from attorneys or educational organizations, and sadly, sometimes you do need an attorney to interpret them. And that was the case for me with this policy. I tried to read it a couple times, and I was myself questioning, what does this actually mean? So I want to focus on just one section of the policy, and it's policy 103, as you mentioned, and it's the first 2 paragraphs on the guidelines section on page 2. But before we go there, I thought I should give a quick background, because I didn't really know who was watching or who was even following what we're talking about tonight. And I also wanted to say that I want everyone to understand that no students should be harassed, bullied, or mistreated in any way, including transgender students. And I'm very glad that Gateway has policies in place that address that. So let's go into a little bit of background info on Title IX for those who don't know what that is or what we're talking about, because that is specifically referenced in the revision of this policy. Title IX was a 1972 federal education amendment that stated that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subject to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Although Title IX applies to a variety of programs, it has received a lot of attention for its impact on athletics. Now, this was something I learned. In federal law, there are statutes and there are regulations. The president cannot undo a statute. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an attorney. Statutes supersede regulations. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, there are 3 areas in the law that require separating people according to sex. Those are currently sports, dormitories, and overnight travel accommodations. Now, there's a regulation, 106.33A, that says a recipient may provide separate toilet, locker room, and shower facilities on the basis of sex, but such facilities provided should be comparable. So you can't have a nicer boys' locker room than a girls' locker room. It's not fair. Since this is not a statute, President Biden changed it to say that you have to do this by gender identity on the assumption that if a statute doesn't specifically mention it, you can change it. This is primarily what has been challenged in court. The change President Biden made basically says, even though we can't override the statute, a school can choose to do this by gender identity. Now, this is why it was immediately, lawsuits were filed immediately against this, because they're questioning his assumption that he can do that. So there are 36 states right now that have lawsuits against them, and all of them have injunctions that were passed, by the way, 9-0 by the US Supreme Court, upholding the injunctions. So what that means is that even if a school board in those states passes it, they can't even enforce it until the Supreme Court hears the case. So I think it was important to note that, you know, all of the US Supreme Court justices agree there might be something wrong with this, but they all said the injunctions stand. And there are more states being added to this lawsuit daily. So that's the background. So I'm almost done. But I felt like I needed to give that background before we went to the actual page 2 guidelines section right here. And this is critical. It says, when district programs and activities include separation on the basis of sex in accordance with the law and regulations, including but not limited to separate restroom or changing facilities or separate health and physical fitness activities, the district shall not implement such programs or activities in a manner that discriminates on the basis of sex, including an individual's gender identity. That paragraph right there means, according to the attorney that I spoke to, that you, as a district, would voluntarily waive your ability to separate based on sex. And I don't think that that's what you guys want to do. I don't want to speak for you, but I think that that's a very ambiguous paragraph, and that you need to know that that paragraph, as it stands, you're waiving your ability. And then, I'm almost done. The second paragraph says violations of that policy, as defined in this policy, basically can result in disciplinary action. And if you flip to the back, retaliation, there's 3 definitions for retaliation in here. Reporting or making a complaint for conduct that may constitute discrimination or retaliation. And number 3, acting in opposition to practices that a person reasonably believes to be discriminatory. So I think that right there really needs some further look. And I have 3 quick solutions for you that you can consider that were suggested to me from the attorney, and then I'll sit down. The first thing you could do is what was that? You could vote it down, or you could table it until the Supreme Court makes a ruling. 2, you could only update the investigative procedures listed in the policy and not the substantive ones. So for those in the audience, the policy includes also investigative guidelines for if someone accuses you of sexual harassment, they're changing the way that, you know, the rules for how that's investigated are determined. You could leave those in. The substantive would be the things that are regarding gender, sex, and gender identity. And you could tell whoever helped you write this policy to just get rid of the substantive stuff and pass the investigative. Or your third option would be to add an exclusion paragraph in that guidelines section that I read and highlighted that says, not including sports bathrooms and locker rooms. So I'm past time. If anybody has any further questions for me, you know, outside of this boardroom, I'm happy to share with you the rest of the information that I received. And thank you for your hard work.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, next, Donna Myers.
I came to make a statement tonight, but it's certainly not as involved as what Mary Beth has just made. So what I wanted to say really is statistics. This is prior to Title IX. Only 1 in 20 girls participated in sports So for 52 years, 52 years later, we now have 1 in 3 girls participating in sports, and a variety of sports. And it allows them to qualify for scholarships to a university or continue in sports as a career. They can carry out their dream to go to the Olympics, or maybe it's just enjoy time with their friends here at school. This past March, the UN reported that 600 females lost 890 medals in 400 different competitions to transgender males. So besides losing medals, they also lost potential financial compensation in the future. Even during the Olympics, some of them do get awards, financial awards afterwards, but there's nothing for them now in the future for participating in sports. Another issue that was reported are the injuries that occur when a biological female plays against a biological male. And I think we've all heard about Peyton McNabb, a North Carolina high school student who was injured when playing. A trans player spiked a volleyball, hit her in the face, and she suffered severe injuries, knocking her unconscious. And 2 years later, she still has partial paralysis and a long-term concussion symptoms, and she's still recovering. Sports can be empowering to girls, allowing them unlimited opportunities, just as it is for boys. So allowing trans players is not safe, and it's not always fair. Some states, I think you had said 36 states, are suing the government with regards to the current president's executive order on changes. I had not really heard too much about this before that Gateway was going to look at this. So I'm happy that you're postponing it until you have further information. I appreciate that, and I hope that you include the parents and students in the talking to you about how they feel about this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then next we have Rosalind Daly.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to look at this from, well, I guess some things similar to Mary Beth and Dawn as well. First of all, Title IX is not law, and I think Mary Beth covered that. We are not obligated to abide by it, and this is especially so since the Supreme Court of the United States just recently overturned the Chevron doctrine. And I don't know how quickly it's going to sink in for people, but the truth is, no regulatory agencies, this is according to the Supreme Court, have the authority to write law any longer. Now, I would disagree probably with Mr. Dice about that, but I don't think they ever really did.
Just right.
Okay, very good, thank you. So you're not obliged to follow this, and I'm glad to hear the Supreme Court is going to be, or there's been some states that have been fighting it. Secondly, I want to say that encouraging a child's questioning of their gender, which unfortunately has been happening a lot in our society, it's not compassion. And I'm going to ask that you not go along with the tide, because this has been a tide, and our culture's been subjected to lots of tides. Am I really 5 minutes already? Oh, okay.
That's someone online.
Okay, oh, thank you. And a verse came to my mind in the scriptures, and I know God was taken out of prayer, prayer was taken out, the Bible was taken out, and, God is poo-pooed by so many people who've been this way for 70 years, but you know what? God is right. And there's male and there's female, and but there has been a move to, discredit God all of my life. And I think it's turning around now. We're beginning to realize that we better listen to what he says, or we're going to keep causing damage to ourselves. I would like to read this scripture. It's in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14. It says, "So then, we may no longer be children, tossed like ships to and fro between chance gusts of teaching and wavering with every changing wind of doctrine, the prey of the cunning and cleverness of unscrupulous men, gamblers engaged," and that can include women, by the way, Gamblers engaged in every shifting form of trickery and inventing errors to mislead. Rather, let our lives lovingly express truth, this is the next verse, in all things, speaking truly, dealing truly, living truly. I think our cultures in general has failed to do this, or the people have not stood up against these tides, because I think most people agree with this, and I think most of you do. And some have just been so bowled over by these winds and these waves. But we need to start standing up for the truth, because we're doing our children damage. So it's not justice to bring this about for the children. It's really not. That's a falsity. The best thing would be to encourage our children with who they are, and well, if they really, people are caught with things and it takes time to undo the damage, give them time, and love them for who they are. But there's just, yes, we have to be careful about not subjecting other children to dangers because of our love for these children. I do believe, as I said, the tide is turning, and America is returning to God and godly principles. We tried for decades to shut him out, as I said, but the truth is, when we ignore his instructions, there are repercussions. And I think we all need to take a look back in our lives, as long as we've been here, to see how many negative repercussions there have been due to laws and regulations that have been against what God says. So I know you put this off for another month, and I'm glad for that. And so I pray that you would consider praying and asking God to show you what's really best for the children, and realize that, again, you have the power to do what's right. You do not have to subject yourself to a regulation. And, God, I hope it would be hard if this were made a regulation, or rather, how shall I say? Thank God the pressure has changed, or the tides are turning. So I would encourage you to go with this fresh, new adherence to and love for God that's being presented so much more in our society, and do what's right. That's really common sense, and show that you have a moral backbone. That's who we need sitting in these seats. We need people with a moral sense and, common sense and a moral backbone. So I ask you to, again, pray about it and choose wisely when you ultimately make this decision, if you do have to do this next month. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other residents that would like to speak on agenda items? Yes, please, step to the podium, give us your name.
Excuse me. It's been a long time since I've been here. Glad to see everybody. Hello, am I on?
Nancy, what's your name?
Yeah. Nancy Lapsovich, resident of Monroeville. My boys and I are also graduates of Gateway. Must say they gave us all an excellent education. I feel that the three of us did go far with that education. I was glad to have it. But I digress. It's hard to follow the three speakers that were before me. But this isn't a political talk. It's not a radical talk. And it's not a biblical talk that I have tonight. I've spoken a few times in front of the board on other subjects, but never on this, never in my wildest dreams, or I'm sure yours, would this ever come to light at this time. But it has. A little background, I'm a licensed RN in the state of Pennsylvania. Being that I'm a mandated reporter, which means if I see a child, an adult, mistreated, not getting the ability of food, home, being beat, whatever, I'm mandated to report that to the state. Luckily, there's nothing going on here. But what I am concerned about is the emotional and physical abuse these kids, whether they're in kindergarten or graduating tomorrow, are going through. It's a scary thought. And I'm concerned about the personal issues the district seems to be facing also. It's the parents, it's the school board, the taxpayers. It's all of us that will be taking the brunt of whatever decision is going to be made. Least of all, it's the kids that we be getting the majority of it. I'm just so concerned with the personal issues because of what's happening through the country. Look at California. And I say, God forbid we're not California, that we're Pennsylvania. I think we're a little more stable, a little more in tune to our people. And we know how California's faring. We can't or follow their leader reasoning. I'm happy to say I no longer have grandkids in the district, only because they're married and moved away, or they would still be here. I did talk to my 10-year-old great-great nephew, and I asked him what he thought. And as any 10-year-old boy would say, he giggled and said, I don't care, what's for dinner? Typical. His sister, though, who's 12, and a very mature 12, I also asked her the same question. What do you think about co-ed lockers, co-ed swimming? She was very upset. It's 11, 12, 13. Girls in particular are coming into their own. Boys, it takes a few years. But girls at that age are developing. They don't even let their mothers or their aunts talk about things to them. So she was quite horrified when I talked about that. And then I thought, you know what, imagine being a young girl coming out of a shower, and who's the first thing you see? A boy with all his nakedness hanging out and all his glory, while you're standing there in your nakedness. I mean, how much can you cover up? It's tragic and it's traumatic. It's tragic and traumatic when you're in your 20s, in your 30s, and I can say even up to your 70s because I'm there and beyond. But they little medical, you know, we know the boys and girls, they mature differently at a different rate. They all have chromosomes, they all have hormones, they all have different ideas of what a sexual need is. And by the time they start hitting junior high and high school, all of those are coming into play. And that's all they want to do is play. Young girls and boys cannot or should not be entwined to be buck naked in any part of the school in front of anybody, be it a locker room or the library. But I sometimes forget, and I thought about it today. I graduated in whenever. In 1960, there was no female sports. And there were none. You couldn't do anything. So we made our own softball team. Thank God for our gym teacher at the time. Had our own softball team. We got to play a couple little schools that had also girls' teams, which many didn't have. And that was the only separation. There wasn't a boy allowed on the team. That was the only thing we had. with soft, no uniforms, the school didn't back us. Those who drove, and we all went. And we played ball, and we had a good time. So it's real good to see that we've come a long way, baby, in the things that they realize that women are capable of doing and things that women do. But I'm just appalled at the thoughts of a kindergartner, 5 or 6 years old, maybe being exposed to an 18, 19-year-old in the locker room, in the halls. Younger kids don't understand. Middle-aged kids probably get a good giggle. But the older kids I'm truly worried about. At that age, and I keep going back to hormones, this might be the nurse in me, but we know sexual mating's going on, for lack of another word. We know teen pregnancy's going on. Kids raising kids. We know rapes are going on. What scares me is if it's all going to be more. If it's going to excel and going to be more than what we may know what's going on now. You'll have kids raising kids. Permission slips are needed by the parents for anything the kids do that are deemed appropriate by the school. So why not ask the parents? How about a permission slip that Joey wants to go play with Jane?
I appreciate your words. I don't want to interrupt. I know that there are other people that want to speak, so I just want to make
I
sure.
didn't hear the ding.
Yeah, it dinged a while ago.
All right, well, one more? I'll be quick, I'll talk fast, okay? It's the blending in the locker rooms and the shower rooms, it should be separate. The little boy coming home and saying that he's allowed to walk around naked and unashamed in front of girls. Well, God bless him. And the girl crying because she started her period and didn't know what to do in front of the boys. Two separate identities, two separate physical, psychological, and emotional sexes we're dealing with here. What I want to know, what did the guidance counselors say about this? Or have they even been notified or talked about it?
Well, as mentioned in the very beginning, first of all, I appreciate your words. Everyone has a voice, and you're allowed to give us that voice, and I appreciate it. We're not going to take any questions and answers because
Okay.
we're taking all of this information. We're going to absorb this information. We're going to dissect this information, and we're going to do the best thing for our community. So that is why we want to give everyone an opportunity to speak. So I thank you.
Okay, because I think that my thoughts, and I'm so glad that you're doing all this, but my thoughts is the guidance counselors, since they're sort of their forte, should be involved in any questioning, any talking, any decision, just to get their input. Is another input.
And I appreciate that. We're taking notes and taking this, digesting all of this. So is there anyone else that wanted to speak on Policy 103 or any other agenda items that wanted to add anything?
Leave the podium.
So I know we have a lot of stuff we got to get through tonight. But if there's something you would like to add, sir, please step up, give us your name.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nate Wakefield. I attended this school some years ago. Actually graduated probably by the skin of my teeth. And I'm going to give you a little different perspective. At the age of 13, I started smoking marijuana. I was involved in this school. I probably sold marijuana on these grounds. And I thought I was maybe doing the right thing. Although at the end of the day, before I would use, I knew that it was wrong. There was something that was saying to me, no. 28 years later, I got clean and I got saved in the same moment. Now, I don't know how many Christian people are in here, to each his own. I woke up. God exposed himself to me. And you're really looking at a miracle of God, not me, but what God had done in my life. And I mean, it was in a blink of an eye. That fast, it ended. And I struggled for years. I think I was in NA, maybe 91. My clean date is over. So I'm clean 23 years plus, clean and saved. So where am I going with this? I'm a man. I see women in here. Okay, I don't see a dividing line. And I'm going to hit you right between your eyes here. There's not a dividing line. There's men and there's women. I have grandkids today. My daughter's 40-some years old. I have a 16-year-old son. What are we thinking? What are we thinking here? Okay, men, women, boys, girls, what are we thinking? Someone has to have the nerve to stand up here and say this stuff. We heard some very professional opinion, and I enjoyed what I heard. Someone has to have the nerve to stand up and say, you people are going to be responsible for this. Okay, I have grandkids. I don't want to hear that something bad happened, okay, because of a decision from an adult. Okay, I know how to make bad decisions. I did it 2/3 of my life. Okay, God showed up. God set the rules. Okay, there's men and there's women. Okay, again, I won't get into any arguments. If you decide to go another way, that's your business. I'm not going to tell you no. But at the end of the day, if someone would come to me with this and I had the decision to make, there's men and there's women. Thank you for letting me shoot.
Thank you. All right. Don't want to eliminate anyone. Anyone else? All right, well, I thank you all. And as mentioned, you have a voice, and I appreciate you taking time out of your evening to come here to express that. So thank you very much. All right, so moving on, board member discussion items. We go around the table, but I know that we're looking at time here. So does anybody have anything they would like to discuss?
Oh, not discussion, just mention that the Gateway Band did perform at the PIMBA Championships on Saturday, and they placed first in their class in AA, and so they did a very good job.
Congratulations. Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? All right. Oh, she has something?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. So then,
I'm trying to read.
next from the previous meeting, I guess we're gonna need motions to approve these minutes.
Joe makes a motion to approve all four.
Second.
All right. Can you roll call for that?
Yes.
Roll call, please. For all four, can we do all four?
Sure.
All four at once, roll call.
You can do a lot of these things in blocks. if you'd
Okay.
like to.
Perfect.
Mr. Bovo?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Mungo?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Dr. Singh?
Aye.
Mrs. Horning?
Aye.
Mrs. Boyce?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So now I'll turn it over to Dr. Rossi.
We have a financial report.
Thanks, Dr. Rossi. Item 5.1, list of bills, October 2024. Item 5.2, financial statements of September 2024.
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney? Aye. Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Mrs. Mungo?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Dr. Singh?
Aye.
Mrs. Horning? Mrs. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Bogo?
Ayes have it. All right.
Give item previously tabled.
Oh, the international travel program proposal. All right, so we had a presentation last week, and I guess we need to untable this first, right?
Do we have
Want
more
to do,
information?
did we discuss?
You're asking me, or-
I'm asking you.
okay, if you're asking me, you don't have to untable it.
Okay.
Leave it on the table, or you can make a motion to table it, and then there'll be discussion.
Okay. Make a motion.
All right, let's make a motion. I need a motion to untable this so we can discuss it.
Motion on table?
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So let's have a discussion and then we can vote on it, right?
Table it, it can be tabled.
Did anyone need any additional information based off the presentation?
I just want to
Yeah.
clarify this. We were making the determination, do we want to be involved with this and have Gateway involvement? And the answer is, this is fine if they want to do it, but we are not supporting it. Is that how I understood that correctly? It is not a Gateway activity.
It's not sponsored.
It's not sponsored, thank you, Joe. It is not sponsored by Gateway per se. And this is going to be,
That's the board's choice. So it could be non-sponsored or sponsored. That's
So you could make a motion to approve this project, but not be sponsored by Gateway School District.
And what happens if it's not sponsored, then they can't hold their meetings here? If it's sponsored, they can hold their meetings here. What is the distinction?
provide additional information using our platform.
If we sponsored it but used the waiver.
There's the waiver that was also provided too. We have, but they gave us. Yeah.
I'm going to ask Mr. Dice's opinion.
yeah, what do you think?
I think you should stay out of the business and let it happen for a year or two, see how it goes. I mean, this might be a great program 3 or 4 years from now. You might see a real surge of people wanting to do it. Right now, we don't know what it's going to do, so I would not get in the business of sponsoring it.
But should
But
we
regardless, it's
sponsor
going to
it
happen
and
as
sign?
far as students are going to be able to go.
It can go
So,
without you.
right.
Sure.
Should we sponsor it so they can hold their meetings at school and sign the waiver? Like, isn't the sponsorship just really for them to utilize school grounds? Like,
Once you say you sponsor it, some tricky lawyer might say you're supporting it.
Okay.
You don't want that.
We don't want to be legally responsible, not knowing how this play out.
Be part of your emotion.
But they can have a meeting at the Maryville Library. They don't have to have it in the
That'll
school.
work itself out. Don't worry about that.
So we should.
So
A motion's in order to acknowledge the trip and.
School sponsored, but not sponsored.
As a non-school.
It
Doesn't mean that we don't support the idea, but we're not sponsored.
We're not, they're not putting ourselves, you understand it's gonna happen,
Yeah.
great, and you're not sponsoring.
It's kind of like an organization that wants approval to post a flyer that
It was like the
there's
hockey
an
program.
event.
Right. Right.
It doesn't eliminate any of the kids from being able
It's
to
like a
participate, but we give them the resources to, that they can go to get additional information and participate. Okay.
Motion to what Mr. Dice said.
The motion will read that Gateway is acknowledging the, this international travel program and will revisit it yearly, but is not at the present time sponsoring in any way the travel.
So Valerie,
She's made the
the
motion.
motion, I second it.
All in favor, this doesn't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone else? All ayes? Okay. Motion carries.
All right.
Yeah, just wasn't sure.
Thank you. Ms. Jessel,
Still
personnel.
get to go.
I want to suggest something. I might be out of line, but here we are, we're at number 7. Some districts that I represent would take number 7 and say, I make a motion to approve 7.1.2 through 7.5 inclusive. There'd be a second. The only time, and you would vote on it, if there is one of those items that you object to, you'd notify the chair that you object to, let's say 7.3, and it would come up. You can do that in each of these blocks, and it moves the meeting along a lot faster. Not that we are all looking to move it faster.
I like the way you move.
It's really, it's much more.
On that note, I'll go ahead and say, the board to approve items 7.1 through 7.8 inclusive.
As it appears on the agenda.
As it appears on the agenda.
So moved.
Look at you guys.
Second.
All right, any questions, discussion? You said that was 7.8, okay.
I just have one question. Andrea, 7.6.
Sorry.
7.6, supplementals.
Yes.
Are we full?
Hold on a second. I'm still at 7 point.
No, we moved on.
You
told us to go away.
Supposed to show you, you weren't paying attention.
We do have one remaining position that we're working through at the middle school at this time, so.
Oh, okay, because this looked like it was,
robotics.
almost filled.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll be posting spring supplementals this month as well, so then that'll be included within that posting to allow another pass at it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that I just saw so many, I was like, oh, are we full? Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
One other question, our paraprofessionals, how are we?
We are presently a handful down at 2 of our buildings, 1 elementary and the middle school. So we're engaging weekly. Tara McCrowan, myself, and Haley Briggs have been interviewing almost daily to be able to backfill those positions, in addition to engaging with third-party providers to provide intermittent support until we fill the position permanently.
Said a handful.
Yeah, a handful at the 1 elementary and then at the middle school. I'd say probably, I think we have a total of 8 placement pairs right now between all of the buildings. And I'd say the bulk of them consist of the 1 elementary and the middle school.
All right, thanks.
So one question. So 7.4 means we are giving tenure to 9 people.
Yes, you are. We have recognizing the tenure of the 9 individuals as listed, as earned at the conclusion of the 23-24 school year in accordance with school code.
One other question. Did we have 7.1.2, is that posted?
Yes, it is actively posted on multiple outlets, and we have a path forward for interviews established for the coming weeks.
Okay, all right, thank you.
My question, like, we're not gonna be short.
No, well, we're exercising our 60-day hold, as we do with all professional employees.
Okay.
As soon as any professional vacancy is nearing the end of that 60-day, or as we progress through the recruitment process, we advise that individual based on if we can release them sooner than later. But I believe Dr. Rossi, Dr. Chakey, and team have an adequate plan in place should we come up against that 60-day window.
Perfect.
How are the applicants looking? Are you getting a
We
reasonable
have a
number?
significant number of applicants. Yeah.
You put it on the website and we're all.
Website, PA Educator, and Indeed, all 3 postings.
Indeed, you did Indeed too, okay. And you indicated, Dr. Rossi, given that we were supposed to go to CSE for, through the building, you're going to let us know shortly as to where you're flipping. Yeah, okay.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Delaney?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Ms. Mungo?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Dr. Singh?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mrs. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Thank you.
Dr. Checky?
Thank you, Dr. Rossi. For approval this evening, we have items 8.1 through 8.7 as they appear on the agenda.
John makes a motion to approve the administrative resolutions for education except for 821 and 822, and I will have a motion that I will read in a section that's going to say, remove the review of policy 103 and 104 from the Gateway School Board agenda to be possibly reviewed at a future date. So my motion is to approve everything but that, and make a motion to set that small piece aside for the future.
John, why don't we do this?
Sure.
Let's take up those that you want to remove first.
821 and 822.
So there's a motion to remove 821 and 822.
Second.
All right, so we better take a, don't need it for that one. All right, all in favor of removing 8.21 and 8.22? We're removing it because, as mentioned, we need some additional information that we've gathered from a lot of our residents here and other places. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'll take up, John, your remaining motion.
John makes a motion to approve 8.1 through 8.7 in the administrative resolutions education section, except for 8.21 and 8.22.
So moved.
Second.
Susan seconded.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Ms. Mungo?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Dr. Singh?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye. And I just want to, on 8.5, support Heath for becoming our new chief supervisor.
Mrs. Joyce?
Aye.
Mr. Boba?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mike.
Thanks, Dr. Rossi. I studied these all afternoon so I could read them, but I don't have to now. Approve items 9.1 and 9.8 as they appear on tonight's agenda.
If you want to read them, go ahead.
No.
John seconds. John moves it.
Jack seconds.
We have to have a first.
Any questions, comments? I have to tell you, I had to look up the Gaga.
Oh, that's,
Ball pit.
it's pretty neat.
That's a pretty,
It's a pretty neat thing. They're excited to get it over at Evergreen.
yeah,
And they're going to use it a lot in the playground.
okay.
It's really neat.
This is sort of related to Evergreen and their playground. Did they ever get it straight about the equipment they wanted to buy, the new playground equipment?
I have not heard yet.
You haven't heard a word? Okay, since we're talking about their playground.
Can I just ask a question on 9.7? We're talking about the reimbursement resolution. What are we talking about?
We had, Dr. Rossi and I met with our bond counsel, which is Piper Sandler. And since we exhausted all the funds from the bond proceeds for the Gateway Middle School, we're currently transferring funds from the general fund to construction fund to pay for the cost. If the state ever reinstitutes PlanCon, we can go back and claim those funds. In addition, with the Constellation Energy project, if the board decides to go with that and take a bond out to do that, we can also deduct those proceeds in PlanCon. We simply need this resolution signed just to protect us. We could, but it doesn't mean we're taking out a bond. It doesn't mean any of that nature, but we have to have us on signed with them and sent, I believe, to Allegheny County, just so if we would ever come back and get PlanCon money, we can get reimbursed for it.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
thank you.
That's it.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, roll call.
Ms. Mungo?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Dr. Singh?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce?
Aye.
Mr. Boba?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney?
Aye.
Mrs. McBride?
Aye.
Thank you. So as far as I know, we don't have any board member resolutions. All right. So comments from residents on non-agenda items. Was there anyone that wanted to make any comments on non-agenda items? All right, thank you very much. All right, so administrative report.
We just have a couple, Micah.
Sorry, I stole your thunder.
Just wanted to
I know I could not
I
talk
know,
about
we just
it.
wanted to recognize the marching band for the great performance, and just the event was awesome, was unbelievable. I think there was a couple thousand people there. It was packed. 14 bands. And so Mrs. Burns mentioned it, so here we.
And the winner for the award for outstanding visual performance and outstanding general effect with a score of 86.175, the 2024 Pimba Class AA champion, the Gateway High School Marching Band.
So they did an awesome job. And I also want to mention about the boosters too. And I was able to go to the trunk or treat event yesterday. The amount of work that the boosters did, like I was talking to one of the band boosters there, and the amount of money they had to pay to host this event and the amount of work that's involved was unbelievable. So it was a great event for Gateway. Nice showcase of all the bands, all the 14 districts, but our facilities. So I wanted to thank them for all their hard work, and the same with the Gateway Middle School PTO as well. Had a few hundred folks at Gateway Middle School yesterday, but it was more than Gateway Middle School. It was a community event. So those boosters really do add value to what we bring to the school districts. So I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge their efforts for what they do for us.
We just want to thank everyone for coming out to the cell phone event that we had last Thursday night. We had a lot of parents attended, got a lot of good feedback from the community. So we're excited about moving forward and making sure that everyone's voice is heard as we shape how we're going to look with our cell phone policy. Just a reminder, no school, November 5th. I'm sure that you realize there's something special happening that day based on all the commercials. So just a reminder that we will be off school.
Exercise your right to run the other way.
After you vote.
The text messages will just stop.
All right. I know that Coach Hall and Micah were on, and I thought I saw John. Did they have anything that they wanted to add?
I just wanted to go ahead, as we just did with the band after that wonderful performance and event. Our fall sports season has wrapped up. The teams that made the playoffs unfortunately bowed out. Some, did not end it with the regular season. But I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize all the hard work and really repping the G, as we say, representing Gateway throughout all the different sports events and different sports that our great student athletes do, while doing a great job in school and in the building, and then also on the fields and courts. I just want to acknowledge them as well. So that's all. I know you've had a long night, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. John, Micah? Anything?
Yes, just real quick, I'd like to thank the custodial and maintenance staff for their efforts this weekend to make all the events we had throughout the district a success. We actually had 33 extra shifts this weekend that we had to fill to cover all the events and clean up between each one. So I'd like to thank them all for their support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so board committee reports, anyone?
It's not necessarily a committee report, but Micah never gives his own acclimates, so I'm going to piggyback off of what Dr. Rossi said. The PTO for Gateway Middle called Micah about 2:30 Friday afternoon and said, hey, can you make us a QR code for the raffle for a trunk or treat in case people don't have money? At 2:36 they had it in their email.
Thank you.
So he helped. He really did. I was like, oh, okay.
This is related to the committee, and since John Walsh is on there, we're not having another building and grounds meeting until January. Though, if in November, because finally, after how long, we have a bid going out for the elevator project at University Park, there's a lot of other things that maybe he can update us on in November prior to us having the regular public meeting, because you did the Constellation Energy.
We haven't received that yet.
You didn't get it, but it would be nice to have an update, because that's going to be huge, because they're going to do an analysis of the building.
We don't have the,
The report yet. Did they give you a clue?
they still have to come out, do a building or two, John, or did they finish?
That is correct. They'll be out tomorrow to finish up 2 or 3 buildings that they have to finish up. And then by the time they get the report together, when we started this, we wanted them to be set and ready to give a report for the January buildings and grounds meeting. So that's what we set for them.
January. I just wanted in the interim, John, if maybe just a brief update in November, because you've got a lot of stuff going on. We got that grant,
Yes.
and that is for a roof, a singular roof.
Put in two.
Two.
Things changed in 6 months since we applied for the grant. So the good news is we got some money to pay for a roof or two. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just, those kind of things, and there was a conversation we had at some point about facilities, about how we were gonna address some of the issues that came up with the rental. You know, that would be Mr. Hall and Mr.
We'll schedule a meeting in November for us.
You wanna have a meeting in November?
We'll debrief and
Yeah, because let's see where we're at with that, since that's something we have to deal with when it comes spring. And also the storage thing that we were discussing, I had reached out to you. We were asked, there were some plans made for all of the musical stuff that's in storage up there. There's not enough room.
I'm meeting with them. John's going to join us, I think, Wednesday. There is some room here at Mosside
There is.
in the interim. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have to start thinking about construction anytime soon. Yeah, just a brief update maybe in November, since we have so many things. John, thank you for making all this stuff happen. We're finally going to have an elevator in University Park. That's amazing. How long has this been on the list? Does anybody know?
7.
Long.
7.
Valerie, how
7.
long?
7.
7 years.
Can I just ask one question too? The restroom at the high school that has been started and not finished yet in the Scotty Williams hallway. Is there any update on what's happening with that?
We talked about digging into that this summer, but we just had way too much going on to start another project.
Okay.
So that's something that has to be done when school is out. So we are going to look at it for this summer based on what funds are available.
Okay, well, good. Thank you very much.
Any other committee reports?
Motion to adjourn.
Did you have anything, Susan?
You know what, interesting enough, an article, and many of you probably, board members may have seen it on you saw this one, you know, on the emails. And I found it interesting, entertaining. Education through entertainment, the cell phone dilemma, which we've been discussing, toy or tool in today's classroom, and the cell phone dilemma tool. But what I found interesting, and it dates me, because it said the debate over cell phones in school is reminiscent of the technological challenge that has surfaced throughout recent history. In 1975, and don't try to figure my age, but I was teaching, Science News published the article Calculators in the Classroom, and when I was against calculators in the classroom, which weighed the pros and cons of allowing calculators in school. Back then, educators worried calculators would erode students' ability to perform arithmetic, yet over time, calculators have become indispensable tools for the higher level of math, proving their worth. Can this be the same for cell phones? And that's why when you start to look at technology, where it's gone, where it's come from, where it's taking us, and even this, they did the pros and cons, and there's so many in terms of cyberbullying and all of the social aspects. And the conclusion, they said, in the debate over cell phones in classrooms, one thing is clear. Our students are struggling to learn healthy technology habits, and they need our help, not our frustration. Banning cell phones entirely may prevent distraction, but it also limits the opportunity for digital learning. Embracing them without guidelines may lead to misuse, addiction, and poor academic performance. The best solution may lie in supporting students' social, emotional skills and digital citizenship through conversations and exercises in addition to restrictions. So I just found that very interesting as I read through, going back in time of things that we didn't think would ever take place and now are very standard. And I also wanted to compliment, I was at the band performance and I was amazed of not, of course, just Gateway, but definitely congratulating Gateway, but looking at some of these bands, as I told Valerie, I said, this is like college. Some of them were, I said, they could be a college campus. They were so many of them. But all of the students, I applaud them and the hard work and the effort that they put into that performance that they did the other day. And those are just little things that I see. And also, I had mentioned when we were talking about emotional, social health of our students, the library is having a meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m., I believe, and it's going to discuss mental health and some of the social emotional things like the cell phones may involve. So hopefully some of you get to come out. I plan to attend that meeting just to see where we're going with that as well.
All right, anyone else?
Two more
John?
things.
Yes.
The Monroeville Public Library has a big to-do, 60th birthday party. This Saturday, all ages free, 5 to 7 p.m.
And all week, they're giving out stuff, John. Did you know that? I went there today, and they had cookies, and tomorrow they'll have something every day this week up till Saturday.
I got
Just
some
so you know.
grandkids I could bring. Okay, one more thing, Robin. The Pennsylvania School Board Association's Delegate Assembly Legislative Platform meeting will occur this Saturday, beginning at 9 a.m. I'll be going virtually.
All right, thank you. Donna? Jack? Nope, thanks. Dr. Singh? Val?
Just again, great performance on Saturday. And thank you to all our athletes that took part in fall sports, and let's look forward to our winter sports.
Leslie?
No.
All right, I can't believe we are, it's the end of the first quarter. Time flies. We just started school yesterday. And we're already coming up on the holiday break, so.
Motion to adjourn?
Need a motion, second?
Go Steelers.
Second.
Where?
Aye.
Aye.